There are many here in Washington, as well as on the ground in China, who are saying that this tactic is actually very wrong-headed. And we're all trying to solve for China's increasing unfair trade practices. There's little dispute about the evidence that China really has been closing its market rather than opening it further to foreign investors. However, the question that many of us have is when the Trump administration is searching to solve and cure this disease, is the medicine they're using actually more harmful than the disease itself?
I don't mean to speak for the Trump administration and do that for itself, and quite ably, I must say, but it might well say these issues have been out there festering for a long time, and no alternative approach seems to have gotten any particularly desirable result out of the Chinese. So what tool is left other than tariffs?
Well, I think that many agree with what you're characterizing as the Trump administration's views, that the Chinese behavior has been bad for a prolonged period of time, and that it is time to be tougher with China, to stand up to these unfair trade practices because they're harming our economy and the global economy. However, back to the tactics that we're using here, unilaterally pressing China in a very public way to make wholesale changes to its economy, one, is not very realistic, and two, unfortunately, is having the effect of really backing China into a corner and, for fear of looking weak, refusing to make any concessions at all. Instead of that, the business community, the European business community joining in with the American business community, is calling for the Chinese to take concrete action to open up its markets, to demonstrate that China does want to promote globalization and positive trade practices. But to date, we're not seeing China even willing to make a move in that direction.
So then what happens, Amy, if that's where we are, and if China feels backed into a corner, then what happens here? I mean, does this just further escalate and only get worse for both sides?
I hate to admit that I am pessimistic that indeed this trade war is not going to be solved quickly. We really are dealing with some fundamental issues. On the U.S. side, I think many in the Trump administration feel that the goal may be disengagement with China in order to bring supply chains back home and shield our economy from China's unfair trade practices, while also maybe trying to slow China's rise. In Beijing, I think there are those who feel that China doesn't want to accede to any concessions that the U.S. is forcing it to make. But again, the way that the Trump administration is really pushing so hard is giving some policymakers in Beijing little room. You have to recall that as much as the Chinese are saying we're going to retaliate whenever the United States takes unilateral actions like this application of tariffs this week, the Chinese are not ruling out talks. The Chinese are saying we still have to talk about this in order to find a way forward. And the business community supports that.